year's World Series of Poker, one man captured everyone's imagination.
Experience of a lifetime.
One man made the impossible possible.
I'm new at this game.
We're ready.
One man named Darvin Moon. He took the World Series by storm.
Praise.
On his way to a second-place finish in the main event.
Until the end, unstoppable.
The unforgettable logger from Maryland is back.
Last year, nobody knew who I was. This year, they're going to come after me.
Joining him in the field will be that other guy from the November 9. You may remember him.
Lawrence.
He just happens to be the greatest poker player in the world. Ooh. Phil Ivey, Darvin Moon. Their quest for a return trip to the final table begins tonight. Welcome back, everyone, to the World Series of Poker presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. I'm Lon McCarran with Norman Chad. Tonight, the Rio is buzzing with almost 2,400 players arriving to play in the main event and complete our Day 1 action.
Let's get it going.
Many of the game's greats are here tonight, including 8-time bracelet winner Phil Ivey, the man who edged out Ivey for Player of the Year last year, Jeff Lissandro, and the man leading the way for this year's Player of the Year, Frank Casella. A host of big names are littered throughout the field, and what a contrast we have at our featured tables. At table 2 sits the man, the myth, the legend, 10-time bracelet winner Doyle Brunson. And taking center stage is the amateur who took us all on that wild ride in 2009, Darvin Moon. On Day 1 last year, he was the anonymous everyman. This year, the bright lights of the featured table now shine on that logger from Maryland. And Norman, what a year it must have been for him.
Lon, last year, Darvin Moon walked in as a complete unknown, and now you figure he might be eyeing his unknown opponents here, wondering if the next Darvin Moon is sitting at this table.
Take a deep breath, buddy. Deep breath. Nerves. I was there last year. I know exactly why. That's why I say take a deep breath. First time they brought me over here, the first hand I played, I got a penalty.
Well, he went from being a babe in the woods to a very cool and collected customer at the final table.
This is the fourth and final Day 1 session. All players gunning for that main event bracelet. A 30,000 chip starting stack greeted all the players once again. Action on Miguel Gonzalez on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Pocket Cam Queen Jack of Clubs.
He is a computer clerk with UPS.
And from the dealer button, he calls for 100 to Darvin Moon, ace-10 offsuit.
Darvin came out of the woods of Western Maryland last year to play the main event and then went home. And again, this year, the main event is the only tournament he has played at this World Series.
And the logger raised it to 300. So 200 more from the 30-year-old Gonzalez. He makes the call.
It's like a battle of who looks more bored. This is Day 1 of the main event. Look alive out there.
Deuce, 5-10, 2 clubs. Darvin's pair of 10s is best. Gonzalez favored with a flush draw and 2 overs. The yellow bar around Darvin's name means he's next to act. He makes it 800.
This is what I would tell Miguel Gonzalez. When you flop a flush draw, you only complete that flush about 35% of the time.
But Gonzalez makes the call.
It's his life.
To the turn we go. 9 of diamonds. Moon still leads, but Gonzalez adds an up and down straight draw. Darvin once again reaching for
15.
chips. I'm not sure he can shake Gonzalez now. He bets 1,500.
Well, we are getting I officially have no idea what Darvin has squirmed from Miguel. Well, he's getting the right pot odds to call with his draws, but I must remind the UPS clerk, sometimes you can wait overnight, and that flush never arrives.
Almost half the deck is in Gonzalez's favor, and he makes the call.
The excitement is building.
All right, the river card is an 8, and Gonzalez hits both draws. The flush earns him the check mark.
Boy, Gonzalez had his flush and straight delivered on time.
Wow, that is amazing. Darvin checked. Gonzalez, 2,500, less than half the pot. Moon calls.
Show me your clubs. I knew that.
I did too, but I didn't have to pay to find out.
Good calls.
Last year, we were trying to get a read on Darvin. Now he's the one mining for information.
I knew you had the clubs. I just had to see for short. That was the cheapest payoff I've seen to get a read.
Darvin Moon, the now savvy logger, is chopping wood and storing it away. He'll bring it out when he needs it most. Well, Norman, the day one sessions are finally nearing an end, and while we have enjoyed watching the parade of players come through the Rio doors, I think we can safely say that in the field today are two of the people we've been looking forward to seeing the most.
Lon, last year, Darvin Moon's run to the November 9 captured our imagination, much like his beloved New Orleans Saints run to the Super Bowl. Now, the Moon Man and my main man, Phil Ivey, are back. Nobody expects Darvin to duplicate his feat, but of course I expect no less from the best player on the planet. I'm warning you, Phil, don't let me down.
Well, there are two ways to find Phil Ivey in the crowd. Look for Phil or look for the Humphreys. Pat and Mel are once again peering over Ivey's shoulder as usual.
He needs to win one so we can yell for him.
They're here all day. Can someone get them a couple of chairs?
Ivey in a hand with Brian Wilkie, the river card coming out. It is a tray of clubs. Wilkie first to act.
Wilkie, a 31-year-old logistics manager from Wisconsin.
He checks to Ivey, who bets $3,000. Wilkie comes along. Ivey shows ace-queen, 4 aces up, and that's a winning hand.
My man.
Ivey, 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 Ivey.
Lon Ivey's raking in a pot on day one. I am stoked. I think that's a Peter Jedden button.
Another member of the 09 November 9 in action, last year's fifth-place finisher Jeff Shulman, and a hand with Alan Rye, an amateur player from Adelaide, Australia. The river card is a king that pairs the board. Shulman checked. Rye bet 700.
Lon, I don't think I could take another year of the Shulmans.
They have momentum. Jeff calls. Rye turns over King Jack for trip kings, and he'll take that pot. What a 2009 the Shulmans had, Jeff. The main event final table, his dad Barry winning World Series of Poker Europe main event. So we go from the year of the Shulmans to maybe the year of the Mizrakis. That's Michael. He and his brother Robert each made 3 final tables this year. The grinder is watching his youngest brother Donnie playing in his first main event. Also in the field today is the grinder's twin brother Eric Mizrachi.
What, suddenly the main event has a 4 Mizrachi minimum? Why don't these guys just form a band and tour the country together?
Grinder and Robert Mizrachi have advanced to day 2 of the main event. At table 2, Texas Dolly, Doyle Brunson picked up pocket 10s. He will see a turn card with 46-year-old amateur Jeff Banghart of Bennington, Nebraska, who has pocket 9s. It's a 5 on the turn. Doyle still ahead.
Doyle says he came into this World Series with what he calls the Brunson blues. All of a sudden, he felt lethargic with no energy whatsoever.
He has enough energy to bet $1,300 into Banghart.
Banghart finished 41st at the 07 main event.
He likes his hand for the time being. They'll see a river card. King of spades, 3rd spade on board, but Doyle has the check mark. Brunson first to act. And now he checks. Banghart checks back. Doyle shows 10s. And last I heard, 10s beat 9s every time, Norman.
Well, that hand might brush away some of the Brunson blues.
Well, Doyle has a different way of showing excitement than the rest of us. Let's get back to the featured table and Darvin Moon's return to the Rio. Darvin has ace-8 of spades on the button, and we'll see a flop with Nathan George holding 7-6 off from early position, and I think he's trying to run a scam on Darvin. Here's the flop. It is 10-8-4. Moon catches an 8. Keeps his advantage. George with a double gut shot straight draw, and he checked. Darvin bets 1,600.
George has an engineering degree from Calicut University in India. I believe they are the Rambling Wreck.
George made the call. Turn card is a jack. Darvin adds a flush draw.
Is it my imagination, or does Darvin appear to be, half asleep?
Not unlike 2009. They check it to the river. The river card now. King of spades, and Darvin Moon rivers the nut flush.
George winds up with nothing.
Check. And he checks a 3rd time.
Darvin would like to get paid off, but he's not going to be called.
Darvin checks back.
Darvin just checked the nuts? He can't do that. He should get a penalty.
Yeah, George shows his hand, as does Darvin.
I knew you wasn't betting. I just wanted to see what you have. I bet you folks.
But if you're last to act on the river with the stone cold nuts, you have to bet.
Actually, they give you a penalty for that.
For what?
You have to bet the nuts on the river. Yeah, that's a penalty.
I never heard that.
That's been a rule for a long time.
You have to, if you're last.
Yeah, if you're last
You're
act.
last.
If you're last act, you have to bet the nuts.
It is to prevent collusion.
I wasn't aware of that.
I don't think.
So
So you'll just be on a penalty for one. This hand. This hand.
Darvin will get a one-hand penalty.
So he'll sit that hand out. Darvin's still learning the nuances of tournament poker, but I doubt the penalty will slow the logger down much.
The 2010 World Series of Poker is presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Feed your wild side. And in part by WSOPacademy.com. Learn online from the champs in an interactive poker school. And FullTiltPoker.net. Learn, chat, and play with the pros.
We kicked off today with a special guest, the NFL's all-time rushing leader, Emmitt Smith.
Let's shuffle and play, baby. Shuffle and play? Give him a 15-yard penalty for improper usage of poker language.
If Emmitt says it's shuffle and play, it's shuffle and play. And Emmitt is playing today, and he shows ace-king, and I guess ace-king will take that pot.
Shuffle and play. This ain't Dancing with the Stars, pal. This is a real competition, and we shuffle up and deal.
I just stumbled into that one, man. I'm telling you. I can't keep the cards. Did you keep them? Damn, I want to keep these.
Are they the same cards from last
It's the only time Emmitt Smith has stumbled in his career.
Can't believe you guys started without me, seriously.
Former world champ Joe Hashem has finally decided to show up, and he's now ready to play for his second main event title. And what do we have here, Norman?
What is this? I can guarantee you'll never see me in a Snuggie. A Slanket, maybe, but definitely not a Snuggie.
The wind is blowing so hard that our thing is shaking.
Well, these guys need to suck it up. So it's a little cold. Be a man. There's no room for Snuggies in poker.
Back to the featured table. Darvin Moon received a penalty a moment ago. He's talking with his wife, Wendy, about it.
I got a penalty. Checking the nuts. They knew he wasn't going to bet. So I checked.
Check the nuts on the river?
Apparently not. I didn't know that. One ham. I wasn't aware of that.
This was unintentional in Darvin's case, but the rule is there to prevent players from colluding or teaming up. That way, you can't play soft say against a buddy in order to protect each other's chips.
I learned something about this game I didn't know. See, every time I play, I learn something new.
It's a complicated game, but one that can bring you fame and fortune as it did to Darvin. But don't think that he's a changed man.
I'm the same old Darvin. As a person, I haven't changed. I still get up early in the morning, go to work every day, come home late at night. I'm in the woods every day. I just don't work as hard like I used to. Been buying property and fixing up houses and reselling them. It's made my life a lot easier. You don't have to worry about next week's paycheck, making all the bills. I bought myself a new truck. I got Wendy the lawnmower. I bought my mom and dad a new Chevy Traverse. It's a little different lifestyle than I'm used to. It's fast paced. The Saints invited me down to the game against New England Monday Night Football, and then they invited me to both playoff games in the Super Bowl. To meet the team you've always cheered for your whole life. That's more important to me than second. I finished second in the main event. The Saints won the Super Bowl. It was a great year.
And remember, Darvin almost never came here. He thought about pocketing the $10,000 when he won his main event seat back home last year to use on his logging business.
Back to action on this featured table. Miguel Gonzalez looks down at King Jack offsuit from under the gun.
Gonzalez learned to play poker from watching his cousin. I would have done the same thing, but his cousin wouldn't let me into their home.
He limps in for 200. Darvin Moon looks down at pocket trays.
Darvin learned to play from his grandfather when he was a kid.
He raises to 700. Pocket jacks for Thomas Lenvi, a 38-year-old Hungarian businessman.
Lenvi learned to play by watching on TV. I didn't know we translated that well into Hungarian live.
He repops at 3 times Darvin's raise. Joe Karachi in the small blind with 10-7, and those will go into the muck. So the raise back to Gonzalez. He had originally limped, and he folds. Back to Darvin.
Raise.
And Darvin is going to re-raise.
5.
Makes it 5,000.
Darvin has stepped in a gopher hole here. Lenvi with pocket jacks, kind of frozen by that 4-bet.
And he makes the call, and these two will go heads up. A good-sized pot over 10,000 chips in the middle.
Perhaps the sound of your voice will wake Darvin up on the flop line.
The flop is 9-8-6. That misses both players. Lenvi's pocket jacks are best. Darvin at a huge disadvantage right now. Karachi would have hit the nut straight had he not folded his 10-7. Moon comes out firing, 6,000.
He'll be aggressive. I like it.
Lenvi now.
All in.
Oh, I don't like it anymore.
Oh, he raises Darvin all in.
That cuts down Darvin and Moon's options.
We called 5,000 with pocket eights.
Well, when you're posturing and your opponent moves all in, you don't have much choice.
I'll let you have it.
Darvin will lay it down. And the Hungarians apparently know how to play pocket jacks, Norman.
Damn.
Well, maybe this guy is the Hungarian Darvin Moon.
Maybe Darvin wishes that he had sat out that hand with a penalty. So Darvin hits a small speed bump there at the featured table. To table 2, where the focus is on Doyle Brunson, who raised from the hijack seat with King Jack. Action is on the small blind Jeff Banghart with pocket 7s.
I'm supposed to raise.
But Banghart just calls.
Probably should have.
I should have. I hate playing out of position.
Indeed, Brunson with the advantage, as Banghart will be acting first after the flop. It is 5 jack deuce all spades. Doyle outflops the amateur. He's got a pair of jacks.
I'm going to check.
Doyle, 76 years old, won the main event in back-to-back years when he was 42 and 43.
He bets 1,300. He has the better of the 2 flush draws also. Banghart makes the call. Turn card now. 6 of spades. Brunson with a check mark. He has the king high flush. Banghart drawing dead.
Check.
Doyle says the one good thing about getting old is that the clothes you buy probably won't wear out.
Banghart checked his second best flush. Brunson bets 1,500.
Banghart calls quickly, drawn dead with his inferior flush.
All right, the river card. See if Texas Dolly can get anything more out of Banghart. Ace of diamonds.
Check.
Banghart has that check thing down, Pat.
Brunson reaching for chips again, this time 3,500.
Banghart getting 3-1 on a call.
And makes it. Doyle shows the best flush.
It's good.
Seems like Banghart knew that the whole way.
That was the 2,348th time that Doyle has hit the second nut flush on the turn in his poker career.
I want to have some meat on it.
Biggest pot of the day, I guess.
Jeff is Doyle's best friend so far here at table 2, and just about everyone loves to see Texas Dolly with chips on day 1 of the main event.
The World Series of Poker, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Main event.
Back at the Rio at one of the outer tables, it seems that Emmett Smith will not find pay dirt in this main event run.
It didn't take too long for Emmett to get tackled. I guess he misses Moose Johnston.
An especially sweet knockout by Chris Donnelly, who is from Houston, eliminating the former Dallas Cowboys star. At another table, we find actor Hank Azaria, who's been the voice of characters on The Simpsons for over 20 years.
I love The Simpsons. But how come it's animated? They don't have enough money to pay for real people?
Hank collecting a pot right there. And Jason Alexander is back amongst the real-life George Costanzas of the world. He's in a hand right now with Nick Dector.
That guy looks like a character from Seinfeld.
Well, Nick turns over Queen Jack, and he'll take down the pot with top 2.
I think this fellow was one of the customers in that Soup Nazi place.
Always here for my failures. Always here. Where are you for my big triumph?
You want to take this layup, Norman?
What triumphs?
There's a guy who's had plenty of triumphs. Phil Ivey in a hand right now with Bart Puma from Phoenix, Arizona.
I refuse to believe that's his real name.
With a king on the river, Ivey bets enough to put Puma all in.
You hate to see Phil Ivey put you all in on day 1 of the main event.
Puma, 36-year-old amateur, folds and shows pocket queens. Ivey doesn't show, doesn't need to show. You just know he's got it.
My man.
Ivey looking to find success again this year in the main event, and if history's any indication, that shouldn't be too hard for him.
I would say you definitely have to approach the main event differently than you do any other poker tournament, just because of the size of the field, all the different players. Second day of the tournament last year, I had a bunch of chips. Once you get them, if you're an experienced player, it's tough to get the chips from the player.
Phil Ivey will take that pot.
Just being at the final table was an amazing experience. Obviously, I've never played poker in that type of situation. And with all those people there and announcing it, and you get to see yourself up on a big screen. And, it was really cool. There were a couple situations that I could have taken advantage of that maybe I didn't.
Ivey mucks the pocket Jackson. Saud will take that pot.
I wasn't really too disappointed. It's just a learning experience.
Phil Ivey eliminated in 7th place from this 2009 main event.
I've played 10 main events, and I've been in the top 25 4 times. So I'm pretty confident I will be back. Hopefully it's this year. And this time finish the job.
People always ask me, why do you keep picking him to win the main event? Why not?
There is the main event bracelet that barely eluded the grasp of Phil Ivey last year. And it's time for the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wild card hand. As we go back to the featured table, there is the man who got even closer to the main event bracelet than Ivey did, Darvin Moon. Action has folded around to the hijack Sikh Joe Karachi, who was born in Sicily, now lives in Canada. He has pocket kings. Karachi wants to raise it up. Why not with the kings to 900? Folded over to Darvin Moon in the big blind. Darvin has the Jack Link's wild card hand.
Well, Darvin is a Rubik's Cube with pants. I've got no chance.
He makes the call for 600.
He's tough to figure. I'm going to put him on a weak ace from the big blind.
Flop is 5 deuce tray. Karachi cannot feel too threatened by that flop.
Not a bad flop for a weak ace.
Darvin first to act, and he checks. Karachi, 1 yellow chip, that's 1,000.
One thing I know about supervisors, they like to supervise. They like to be in charge.
Darvin makes a call.
Well, if he can call, I think he got a piece of that flop, Lon. I'll say ace-5, so he's got top pair, top kicker, and a gut shot.
It's a 10 on the turn.
Oh, that 10 changes nothing, Lon. Absolutely nothing. It might as well be a cocktail napkin.
Moon checks again. Karachi with 2,000 this time.
See, the supervisor's still supervising.
Darvin looks a little nervous, but he calls again.
Darvin might have a big hand brewing. A pair, a gut shot, and maybe even a flush draw. I'm sticking with ace-5 for Darvin.
That would be just like Darvin Moon. It's a 9 of spades on the river.
That 9 of spades changes even less than the 10 of hearts.
Darvin had checked twice.
Look at this. Look at this.
The big man comes out of hibernation, 6,000.
And there's the patented, I officially have no idea what Darvin has squirm. Boy, a big bet on the river. Did Darvin have a pocket pair and hit a set along the way?
I call.
Karachi calls. Darvin shows ace-4 for a flopped wheel.
He did have a weak ace, but he flopped the wheel. I was that close, Lon, but I didn't know.
Darvin Moon wins the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wild card hand.
So close, but so far.
Karachi just got mooned. Darvin doing what he does best at the main event, hitting flops and stacking chips. Not much an opponent can do about that. To become a member of the November 9 is to become part of Poker Lore. These are the men who made history last year. Who will it be this year? Joe Cata outlasted the other members of that November 9 here at the Rio, and he was the only one to outlast Darvin Moon, and Darvin's back at it. He just turned 7's full against 4 others. George, Karachi, and Mihail Salin checked to Darvin. Darvin now comes out with 1,200 on the turn.
This reminds me of Darvin last year. He kept flopping sets. Here he turned a full house.
Poker pro Robert Carr is also in the hand. He called with 7s and deuces. 3 players folded, so Darvin now has the check mark.
By the way, last year, Darvin plowed through almost 6,500 players. This year, what recession? 7,300 players here. Second largest main event field ever.
Carr and Moon see a tray of diamonds on the river. Moon first to act.
They were calling him Darvin Gump online last year. An American original.
A nice healthy bet, 3,200 from Darvin Moon. And now Carr with his 7s and deuces.
Carr looks like he might be a non-believer.
Well, Darvin was quite an enigma last year. But he makes the call.
7's full.
Yeah, Darvin had it.
Sounds full.
Yeah, this time the Darvin squirm brings Carr out of his seat.
You laid that 10 out there. I was like, put it in there, put it in there.
Almost. So close, baby. So close.
That's the Darvin we know, huh?
You guys set till you can figure you guys out before you start playing.
And still nobody can figure out Darvin.
Well, Darvin rakes in yet another pot here at the featured table. What a great character he was that emerged from last year's main event.
It's why we love coming here each and every year.
Well, Darvin, there are so many great stories out there in the field, and we meet so many interesting people like Steve Sanders, who last year finished 54th as an amateur in his first ever main event. Certainly a remarkable feat. Steve wins a small pot there, but it was a pot he lost to Dennis Phillips that was the biggest win of his life.
Last year, I decided to play in the World Series of Poker.
About 54 people left, and I get involved in a hand with Steve.
I had pocket aces, and he had pocket queens.
The river card is the jack of clubs. Phillips flush comes through. That hand leaves Steve Sanders crippled.
The next hand, I was eliminated. I was in such severe pain, I went back up to my room for a few minutes, and then I took a cab to the hospital. If I had won that Dennis Phillips hand, I would be dead now.
He'd been having pains all day. He had an aortic aneurysm that, if it had busted, literally would have been a death sentence right there at the table.
My insides were getting ready to explode. They did an MRI, and they rushed me in fairly quickly. And they operated on me within an hour because the aneurysm was getting ready to rupture. And I was in intensive care for 4 days. But now I've made a full recovery.
I guess that card was meant to come for Steve's sake, not for mine. And that's just amazing.
This year, I saw Dennis and I thanked him. I told him that by rivering me with that jack of clubs that he saved my life. I don't know if he's ever had an opponent. Thank him for knocking him out of the main event.
Great to hear that Steve has made a full recovery. We wish him well in this year's main event. And right now, Steve, ironically, is tied up in a hand with a former ER doctor, Ray Musica, who now works in the video game industry. Steve flopped a flush with a redraw to a straight flush. Musica has a set of nines.
I hate playing against a guy who's lucky to be alive. He's on a free roll.
Sanders bet 3,000. Musica calls. And they'll see a river card. Sanders ahead. It's another 10. Musica rivers a full boat. He's got the check mark, and he checks. And Sanders checks and will lose.
How did Musica check that? Musica checked a full house. Every time Steve Sanders is beat on the river, he gets a break. The first time it saved his life. This time he saved some chips.
Well, Steve Sanders gives up the pot there, but he's trying to make a run back into the money at the main event. Let's get back over to table 2 and check in on Doyle Brunson. He is facing a raise from Stuart Elkin. Elkin raised it up to 600 with 10-8 of spades. Doyle with 10 deuce. Oh, he's got the Doyle Brunson.
Doyle had 10 deuce on the final hand of the 1976 main event when he beat Jesse Alto. Then he had 10 deuce on the final hand of the 77 main event when he beat Gary Berland.
Brunson re-raised to 2,000.
Doyle says he still plays it from time to time because, well, why not?
Dennis from Boynton Beach, Florida, folds.
I had to do it. First time I've heard it.
I love it.
And when he plays it and wins with it, he almost always shuts it.
And Norman, the players who get beat with 10 deuce against Doyle always seem to enjoy the moment. So Doyle Brunson in top form over at table 2. Let's get back to the feature table, which so far tonight has been the Darvin Moon Show. Coming off his $5 million payday for second place last year, everyone is very curious how he would perform this year, and so far he's holding his own. Miguel Gonzalez with pocket tens.
Raise.
He's going to raise, Lon.
Make it 900.
He's made it 900, Lon.
What am I here for?
Exactly.
Good for you. Folded to Darvin, ace king of spades.
Joe Caddis started heads up against Darvin last year with more than a 2-1 chip lead at the final table, but Darvin took nearly a 3-1 lead during that 87-hand battle.
A re-raise to 3,600 from Darvin.
At last year's final table, Darvin's fans had T-shirts on the front. It said Bad Moon Rising. On the back, if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. That's Darvin in a nutshell.
Gonzalez makes the call with his pocket tens and will go heads up against Darvin and his ace king of spades. The flop is Jack 7 deuce. Gonzalez pocket tens are still good, but he checks.
Darvin, the standard continuation bet is coming. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Good size. Bet 4,200.
Looks like the standard Darvin squirm brewing for Miguel Gonzalez.
And he lays it down.
The bluff works. Darvin rules.
The pressure from Darvin Moon got to Gonzalez, and Darvin takes that pot.
I'm new at this game. I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, whatever. That line may have worked last year, but he's done fooling people. Everyone knows the logger can play the game and won't hesitate a second to take you out.
Prestigious prize in poker, the bracelets. Presented by the official WSOP game on Facebook. Play online now.
Phil Ivey came into the $3,000 horse event final table as one of the chip leaders and managed to outlast one of the most impressive lineups at the World Series as Chad Brown, Jeff Lissandro, and John Juanda all fell by the wayside. Once Ivey was heads up against Bill Chin, he made history, becoming the youngest player ever to capture 8 bracelets. Back to the main event action here at the Rio. Let's check in on Phil Ivey, who's about to see a river right now with freelance TV producer Lisa Nomura. Lisa is from Carpinteria, California. They see a river card of a 10 of diamonds. Nomura first to act, and she checks over to Phil.
He looks good in blue.
Now to Ivey, having to figure out another amateur player. He says he has kings. Nomura shows a set of 6s, though, to win the pot.
He doesn't look as good in blue right now. Nomura collects my man's chips, by the way. I have to congratulate Phil on that 8th bracelet. That ties him with Eric Seidel for 5th place on the all-time list.
So let's go from one November Niner to another, Antoine Saout, the Frenchman who finished 3rd last year. But different card falls here or there, he might have been the champ.
Indeed, Antoine got very unlucky at that final table and since then has acquired a very bad haircut.
Another member of the November 9, Eric Buckman, is also in the field. Buckman won his first bracelet this year. It was a limit hold'em event. He takes a pot off Nathan Tuthill right there.
He looks like a November Niner. He smells of success.
Over half of last year's November Niners in action, but we might lose one right now. Jeff Schulman all in and ahead with a set of 9s against Austrian poker pro Johannes Steindl, who's got pocket queens and a flush draw. He makes the call.
Steindl can knock out Schulman with a queen or any spade other than the ace.
River card is a tray of hearts, and the set will keep Jeff Schulman around. He's over 18,000 chips now.
It could be another year of the Schulmans. Check your calendar.
His dad Barry has already advanced to day 2 of the main event. To another player who had a great 2009, Jason Mercier. He won a number of titles, including his first World Series bracelet. Jason flopped a set of queens against Sal Simeone, who turned a 10-high straight. Jason just raised Simeone all in.
You going all in?
You went all in.
I call.
Simeone calls.
Simeone is a divorce attorney, and he's divorced. Good planning. Mercier can still knock out Simeone if the board pairs.
The river card now is a 6 that does pair the board. Mercier rivers a boat to send Simeone to the rail.
Boy, Mercier has been playing good, and he's been running good for quite a while. Every time you look up the last year or so, Mercier is winning a hand either from ahead or from behind.
I'm not going to play any more hands today, guys. I'm done.
The only way he doesn't play any more hands today is if a UFO lands in the middle of the Rio poker room and shuttles everybody off to a bigger casino several galaxies away.
So you're saying he's going to play another hand, is that right? All right, back to the feature table where Darvin Moon continues to find ways to collect chips, even though, as you see by that graphic, he's playing pretty snug poker today, but his chip count is up for the day. Action on Mance Montgomery on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Pocket Cam. Pocket 8s for the amateur player from Boise, Idaho.
He owns 3 strip clubs and a sports bar. I'll have to go check out that sports bar sometime.
Montgomery raised it to $9.25. Darvin Moon looks down at pocket aces.
Boy, shades of last year again. Remember how Darvin told us he kept getting pocket aces on day 1?
Yeah, I guess he wasn't lying. Darvin just calls with the pocket aces.
And on day 1 last year, Darvin doubled his starting chip stack.
Action is folded around 2. Miguel Gonzalez now in the big blind. Gonzalez with 10 deuce.
No, your name is Miguel Gonzalez, sir, not Doyle Brunson.
Boy, he seems intent on playing pots with Darvin. And he'll make that call with 10 deuce.
Texas Dolly Gonzalez calls.
So 3-way action. The aces of Moon in the lead right now.
I'm telling you, this table needs an energy boost.
Here's the flop. It is king, ace, king, Darvin with aces full of kings.
Earlier, Darvin flopped a straight. Now this time a full house.
Gonzalez checks. Montgomery checks. Darvin with the royal flush of full houses. He checks as well.
This Darvin is one sly fox just napping in the woods.
A jack on the turn. Darvin now with the check mark. Gonzalez checks again, as does Montgomery. Darvin checks, hoping to find some action on the river.
He's going to hibernate a little longer.
It's a 6 of clubs on the river. Gonzalez and his 10 deuce. Check again. Montgomery with the pocket 8s. We'll take a stab at it. 2,000.
Finally, Darvin gets what he wants.
Montgomery will find that he's brought a knife to a gunfight, though. As Darvin reaching for more chips, a raise to 6,000. Gonzalez folds.
Montgomery might be wondering if Darvin's trying to buy it.
Just waiting for someone to bet, weren't you?
Montgomery's right. And Darvin shows his hand.
And just like last year, Darvin doesn't mind showing his monster hands, even when he's not called.
Not a bad flop for that, man.
Ace is full, Wendy, although he might tell you he had a busted flush draw.
I hope Wendy Moon is prepared for another long stay in Vegas, because her man Darvin is on a roll once again.
The World Series of Poker, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Main event.
Back at the Rio 2009 Player of the Year, Jeff Lissandro in action tonight. At least I think that's Jeff.
It is monsoon season here in Las Vegas.
With pocket aces, Jeff is jousting with Bob Lang, and his pocket queens. Lang is the vice president for In-N-Out Burger.
I want one right now.
Lang just hit a set of queens on the flop.
4,000.
Lissandro bets 4,000 with his second best aces.
Will this guy take my In-N-Out Burger order, or does he have to play the hand first?
Lang calls for 4,000. The turn card is another 4. Lissandro in a deep hole as Lang improves to a full house.
Lissandro with 3 bracelets in 2009. This year, just 3 cashes at the World Series.
6,000 from Lissandro now with aces up. Lang says, let's play for a little more. Lissandro says, let's play for it all, and a call from Lang.
All in and call.
3 queens is good, buddy.
And Jeff Lissandro's main event is all but over in a flash. He wants to double up. I want a double-double. Lissandro needs an ace on the river or he's gone.
The river card is a 9, and last year's Player of the Year is out. Let's take a look at this year's Player of the Year standings. Frank Casella with 2 bracelets has a big lead. To tie or pass Casella, the others on this list would have to at least make the main event final table. And there is Frank Casella with pocket aces. He bet enough to put Emily Gillette all in, who has a pair of kings. Emily, the wife of Penn Gillette of Penn and Teller fame.
6 nights a week at the Rio.
Gillette folds, and Casella will stack the chips.
Where did this guy come from? A 42-year-old entrepreneur, and he could be World Series Player of the Year.
Like they say, Norman, anyone can win. A lot of action out in the field. Let's get back to the featured table and Darvin Moon, who's had a pretty good day one so far. Action folds around to Mihail Salin. He peeks down at a jack and an ace offsuit. Salin, a poker pro from Lisbon, Portugal, limps in for 300. Miguel Gonzalez now in the hijack seat, pocket 9s. And he'll limp in as well. Darvin, ace 9 of clubs.
Darvin says Las Vegas is too hot for him because he says he's too fat.
Darvin limps in.
What am I doing here then?
Thomas Lenvi in the small blind with Jack Trey off, calls for 150 more. In the big blind, Tom McCormick, an accomplished amateur player from Fargo, North Dakota, ace Trey off.
McCormick has the second most cashes in World Series history, 32 without winning a bracelet. Only Tony Cousineau has more cashes without a bracelet, 46. Sorry, Tony.
McCormick checked his option. 5 players will see an inexpensive flop. And here it is. 7, king, deuce, 2 clubs. Nobody has a king. So Gonzalez is still best with his pocket 9s. Darvin with a nut flush draw. Lenvi checked.
Well, remember earlier I was talking about when you flop a flush draw, you usually don't make your flush? Those numbers don't apply to Darvin Moon.
Gonzalez checked. Moon does bet 1,600. Lenvi folded. McCormick gets out of the way. Salin lays it down. Only Gonzalez is left, and he will call.
Actually, Gonzalez hit a club flush against Darvin earlier in a similar situation.
They are heads up again. Turn card is a tray of spades. No help. Darvin Moon still a 3-1 dog. Gonzalez first to act.
Check.
He checks. Darvin checks.
Darvin, you should have bet. You know you're going to make the flush.
The river card now. And there it is. Darvin hits the flush.
I knew it. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Gonzalez is going to bet this time. Too late. 2,600.
Darvin gets a gift there. And, of course, he now knows he has to raise here with the Stone Cold Nuts.
Let's see how much Darvin will make it. 6,600. 4,000 more to Gonzalez.
Total of 6,600.
Gonzalez does the little, I have no idea what Darvin has, squirm over there. And I'm sure those pocket nines are shrinking.
Gonzalez folds.
I didn't want to get penalized that time.
No penalty, Darvin. Just a nice pot.
And those logger paws stack the chips again. It's year 2 of the Darvin Moon Express as it continues to roll over the competition here at the main event.
The 2010 World Series of Poker is presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Feed your wild side. And in part by the official WSOP game on Facebook. Play online now. For details, go to WSOP.com/Facebook. And PokerStars.net, the world's largest poker site.
Welcome back to The Real. Let's get right to table 2. Doyle Brunson once again in a hand with Jeff Banghart. Doyle with an up and down straight flush diamond draw. Jeff with a spade flush draw. To the river we go. It's a king of diamonds, and Doyle hit his flush.
Banghart owns a lawn sprinkler company, and he's been getting soaked by Doyle all day.
Brunson reaching for chips with that flush. 2,500. Banghart now, known as Mr. Rain.
He's got 9 highs.
And he's trying to bluff Doyle here, a race to 7,000.
They bluffs at it, Lon, at the wrong time.
Bluffing the wrong man at the wrong time. Doyle makes the call and will show his flush.
You had it. God, didn't think you'd have it.
Another pot for the Hall of Famer. Doyle says his Mount Rushmore of poker would be Johnny Moss, Sailor Roberts, Puggy Pearson, and Chip Reese. All of them have passed away.
Well, that former champ is in good shape to make it to day 2. From today's starting field, 633 have been knocked out already, and the 05 champ Joe Hashem is at risk right now. But Pascal Lafrancois can knock him out if he hits an ace, king, or heart. Turn card 5 of diamonds, Joe still good. The river card is an ace.
That's why he hates the luck.
Joe Hashem knocked out.
That's what I was looking for.
Lafrancois had won World Series cash this year, but it was a doozy. He won a bracelet and over $500,000. Joe had a deep run here last year.
But this year, the 05 champ showed up late and is leaving early.
Over to Phil Ivey, holding flush and straight draws after the flop against 26-year-old Gene Yanite, who leads with a pair of aces. And now Yanite shoves. Ivey makes the call, but will need to improve to eliminate his opponent.
On the draw, Ivey was getting more than 5-1 on a call there. Pretty easy call for just another 4,000 or so chips.
So Yanite, also a competitive chess player, is at risk. Turn card another jack as Yanite improves to aces up.
Ivey's going to need a queen or a heart to knock off Yanite.
The river card is a blank, and aces and jacks will provide Yanite with a double up.
And my man is looking a little weathered. Don't just stand there. Give him an apple.
Team Ivy has to regroup and get their man back on the winning track. As we get over to the featured table, let's take a look at the tail of the tape and break down Darvin's play so far. His voluntary hands are VPIP. Hands played when not in the blinds is 20%, hovering around the table average.
But Darvin is right around table average in all the categories, but he's way above in the one thing that counts, chips. He's doubled his starting stack.
Blinds up to 2 and 400. Darvin Moon with ace-9 of spades.
Darvin's table demeanor simply does not change.
He was first to act, and he raises to 1,600. Action folds around to Darvin's best friend at this table so far, Miguel Gonzalez, in the small blind with pocket kings.
Yeah, the UPS clerk has locked horns with the woodsman many times today.
And he calls for 1,400 more.
Darvin over there has the working man's Howard Lederer pose.
So these two will play a pot once again. Darvin's been holding over Gonzalez for the most part. The flop 10-8-5 Rainbow. Gonzalez with his kings is still ahead. Gonzalez first to act, and he checks the kings.
25.
Darvin's going to bet his ace high.
Darvin trying to set a U.S. loggers record for continuation bets at the main event.
I'm going to raise.
He's going to raise, Lon. Darvin seems somewhat disinterested.
75-50.
Time for Darvin to shut it down.
Makes it a total of 75-50.
Darvin needs over 5,000 to call.
Raise.
But he announces a re-raise.
I think Darvin has stepped into an even bigger gopher hole this time.
Well, let's see if Darvin's aggression can shed the UPS man. Nope, Gonzalez all in.
And Darvin caught with nothing. Last year he said he didn't care about the math if he thinks he's beat, he folds. But getting 10-1 here, even Darvin might play the pot odds. It's just 4,300 more.
That would leave Darvin with just about 33,000 behind. I don't know how he can get away. He does call and put Gonzalez at risk. And Darvin sees he's in trouble.
I got 3 outs. Runner, flush.
Actually, there are other ways he could squirm out of this hole, but Darvin with a misplay and about to give away many of his chips.
All right, so here we go to the turn. Darvin Moon got a little loose there. Could come back to bite him. Turn card now is a 9. Darvin pairs his 9 to pick up a couple of outs.
He's got 5 outs now. You know, you could give me quad kings, Lon, and I wouldn't feel safe against Darvin. Gonzalez has to dodge an ace or a 9 to double up.
River is the ace. Gonzalez is gone.
And for Gonzalez, the Darvin squirm turns into the Darvin grimace.
No problem.
What a bad beat to end Miguel Gonzalez's day.
Thank you.
You're right, Norman. You almost felt it coming.
From a gopher hole to a rabbit's foot.
I just thought I'd seen him do it too many times, and then I got caught.
This has been Darvin Moon, the sequel, returning to the World Series main event with a vengeance. Today, the Rio was home to lots of fast-paced action.
Give me the book, Barry. Give me the book.
Barry would get to hold on to his book, but no Player of the Year for John Juanda.
See you guys next year.
Champions of the gridiron and the felt were sent to the rail, while many familiar faces survived to day 2.
I'll be back. Let's see if I can get it together.
For Steve Sanders and so many others, step 1 is accomplished.
I wish there were a little more chips here. What a great day was.
For Norman Chan, I'm Lon McCarran. We will see you for day 2 of the main event at the World Series of Poker.